Touch my son again, and you're dead. Have you ever been so certain someone was your enemy that you missed the truth standing right in front of you? Imani Carter pressed a 7-inch blade against a stranger's throat in a rain-soaked parking lot, her 6-year-old son trembling behind her, and she was absolutely sure this man had just tried to kidnap her child. She was wrong, but she wouldn't know that until it was almost too late. The rain hit the diner window like scattered bullets that Thursday night. Each drop caught the neon light from the open 24 hours sign, turning the glass into a kaleidoscope of red and blue. Imani's shift ended at midnight, but she stayed until 12:47 because Table 6 needed their check split 4 ways, and the new kid didn't know the system yet. Her son Noah sat in the back booth, half asleep over his dinosaur coloring book, one small hand curled around a cold mug of apple juice. His head kept drooping forward, jerking back up, then drooping again. She'd learned long ago, you don't rush when your child is safe and warm. The world outside could wait, but stepping into the parking lot, rain soaking through her jacket in seconds, Imani's instincts flared. A black sedan idled 3 spaces down, engine running, a low purr she could feel in her chest, windows tinted so dark she couldn't see inside. No headlights despite the downpour. Every alarm bell in her body started ringing. Noah's hand found hers, small and trusting. "Mama, I'm tired." "I know, baby." She walked faster, keys already between her fingers like she'd been taught years ago. "Almost to the car." That's when the man appeared, tall, Korean, expensive coat despite the downpour, the kind that cost more than her monthly rent. He moved toward them with frightening speed and precision, and Imani's body knew, before her mind caught up, that this wasn't random. This was targeted. His hand shot out, grabbed Noah's arm, yanked him sideways with enough force to make the boy yelp. The SUV came out of nowhere. It tore past where Noah had been standing half a second before, close enough that the spray of gutter water hit Imani's face, mixed with rain and something that tasted like oil. The vehicle's taillights disappeared into the rain. No brake lights, no slowing, no apology, just gone. Noah stumbled into the stranger's chest, gasping for air, his dinosaur coloring book falling into a puddle. Imani's dagger was out before she thought. The blade she always carried, warm from her pocket, familiar in her palm. She stepped between them, steel angled up at his throat, close enough to draw blood with the slightest pressure. "Touch my son again, and you're dead." The man released Noah immediately, hands up, palms open, but his eyes didn't flinch, didn't show fear. They were dark, steady, and completely calm. "If I wanted to harm him," he said quietly, his voice barely audible over the rain, "you wouldn't have seen me coming." The words landed like ice water down her spine. Imani grabbed Noah with her free hand, pulled him behind her. The boy was shaking, water dripping from his hair. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard it hurt, but her hand on the blade stayed perfectly steady. The stranger stepped back. Slowly, deliberately. Rain dripped from his hair, ran down the sharp angles of his face. He looked at Noah once, just once, and something unreadable crossed his expression. Regret? Recognition? She couldn't tell. Then he turned and walked toward the black sedan. He didn't run, didn't explain, didn't look back, just left. Imani's breath came hard and fast. She knelt in the wet parking lot, checked Noah over with shaking hands. No bruises, no cuts, no blood. Just fear in his wide brown eyes and rain on his cheeks that might have been tears. "Mama, who was that?" "I don't know, baby." But her mind was already cataloging every detail. The car's make and model, the way he'd moved like someone with combat training, the expensive watch on his wrist, the way his coat hadn't had a single wrinkle despite grabbing her son. A predator who missed his chance, or something worse. She carried Noah to her car, locked the doors with trembling fingers, and drove home checking her rearview mirror every 30 seconds. The black sedan didn't follow, but somehow that made it worse, because professionals don't need to follow you. They already know where you live. What she didn't know, Hyun Ki-seo sat in that black sedan 4 blocks away, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles had gone white, staring at the rain-streaked windshield. His cousin Lily's laughter echoed in his memory. 8 years old, obsessed with dolphins and strawberry ice cream. She'd begged him that morning to take her to the aquarium next week, pressed her small hands together in that way she did when she really wanted something. He'd said yes without hesitation. Now he couldn't stop seeing the SUV, the little boy's face frozen in terror, the mother's blade at his throat, the rage and fear in her eyes when she'd thought he was the threat. The Seongho clan doesn't make warnings. They don't send messages you can ignore. They make examples, permanent ones, and tonight someone had just tried to send him a message written in a child's blood. He'd been tracking that SUV for 6 blocks, watching it follow the boy from school to the diner, recognizing the pattern. The same vehicle that had been circling his office. The same one that had driven past Lily's school 3 times last week. He'd sped up, positioned himself, waited for the exact moment to intervene. But the mother saw only the grab, not the save. To her, he was the monster. Hyun Ki pulled out his phone with stiff fingers, texted his head of security. They're expanding targets. Find out who the woman and child are. I want them protected, discreetly. They don't need to know. Then he drove to the hospital where Lily was scheduled for her regular checkup tomorrow, trying to ignore the feeling that everything he'd built over the past 5 years was about to collapse, trying to ignore the truth he'd been avoiding. You can't outrun your past when it knows exactly where to find you. Mercy General's ER smelled like disinfectant, burnt coffee, and something underneath that Imani could never quite identify. Fear, maybe, or desperation. She hated hospitals, too many memories. Her mother's last days in a room that smelled just like this. The social worker who'd tried to take Noah when Imani's record came up during the birth paperwork, who'd looked at her like she was already a failure. But Noah had a fever, 103.2, and she wasn't risking it, not with her son, not ever. The waiting room hummed with fluorescent light and quiet suffering. An elderly man coughed into his elbow, the sound wet and painful. A teenager held an ice pack to his jaw, dried blood on his collar. The TV played muted news, images of traffic and weather scrolling endlessly. Imani filled out forms with a pen that barely worked. Insurance? None. Payment plan? Yes, whatever you need. Occupation? Food service. Noah leaned against her side, his forehead burning hot against her ribs through her still damp shirt. "Mama, Is the mean man gonna come back? No, baby. She smoothed his hair, felt the heat radiating from his skin. I won't let him, I promise. The automatic doors burst open with a pneumatic hiss. Hyun-ki Seo strode in, flanked by two men in dark suits that screamed private security. He carried a small girl in his arms, unconscious, blood matted in her dark hair, her unicorn backpack still strapped to her small shoulders. One of her shoes was missing. I need a doctor! His voice cut through the waiting room's murmur like a blade. Now! And a nurse rushed over, already calling for a gurney. But Hyun-ki didn't wait. He followed them straight through the double doors into the restricted area, bodyguards trailing like shadows, their hands hovering near concealed weapons. Imani's blood went cold. That's him, the man from the parking lot. She watched through the door's window as he laid the girl on the examination table with surprising gentleness, his hands shaking visibly. A doctor barked orders. Nurses swarmed. The bodyguards formed a wall, blocking the hallway from curious eyes. One of them pulled out a phone, spoke quietly but not quietly enough. Find the driver. I don't care what it takes. I don't care who you have to pay or threaten. We need answers tonight. Imani's mind clicked through the pattern like tumbling dominoes. The SUV in the parking lot that almost hit Noah. This girl's accident, with blood still fresh in her hair, the bodyguards mobilizing to hunt someone down. He caused this, he's the one behind it. And now, he's cleaning up witnesses. Noah tugged her sleeve, his small hand hot with fever. Mama? Shh, baby. She pulled him close, her heart pounding a war drum rhythm in her chest. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. The nurse called her name for triage, but Imani's eyes stayed locked on the restricted area. She watched Hyun-ki pace outside the exam room like a caged animal, watched him scrub blood off his hands at the hallway sink with violent efficiency, watched him bow his head against the wall like a man carrying unbearable weight, or like a man drowning in guilt. Noah's fever was viral, nothing serious, Tylenol and rest, the doctor said with a tired smile. But Imani sat in the discharge area, pretending to read the aftercare instructions, watching the ER entrance through her peripheral vision. Waiting. Hyun-ki emerged 2 hours later. The girl, alive, 아니요. bandaged, 수아모. Slice mode had been transferred to pediatrics. He walked to the vending machine like a man in a trance, fed it crumpled bills with mechanical precision, and didn't take the soda when it dropped. He just stood there, forehead pressed against the glass, shoulders rising and falling with breaths that looked painful. One of the bodyguards approached, spoke in a low voice that didn't carry. Hyun-ki straightened, and Imani caught the words. Sir, we located the driver. Hyun-ki's voice was flat, empty. Good, I want to know who gave the order. And then we make it absolutely clear what happens when someone touches my family. Imani's jaw tightened until her teeth ached. Mafia, I knew it, I felt it. She'd grown up in that world. Different city, different players, same blood-soaked rules. Violence answered with violence. Debts paid in screams and broken bones. Children used as leverage because nothing cuts deeper than threatening someone's child. Her own hands weren't clean. She'd done enforcement work for 3 years before Noah was born, learned how to track people who didn't want to be found, how to ask questions that got answers, how to make people regret what they'd taken. She'd been good at it, too good, but she'd walked away the day she saw the pregnancy test. Built a life at the margins, waitressing, under the table work, keeping Noah safe and invisible and far away from the life that had nearly consumed her. And now this man, this So in his expensive clothes and blood-stained hands, had brought that world crashing back into her life. She thought of the SUV, the way it had come straight for Noah without hesitation. He tried to kill my son, or he's tied to whoever did. Either way, he's marked us. Either way, he was a threat that needed eliminating. Imani stood, lifted Noah into her arms. He was getting too big for this, but tonight she needed to feel his weight, his warmth, his aliveness, and walked out of the hospital into the cold night air. But as the automatic doors closed behind her, she made a decision that would change everything. Hyun-ki Seo wouldn't get the chance to hurt her family. She'd find him first, she'd hunt him down, and she'd end this before it began. Have you ever been so certain of someone's guilt that you couldn't see past your own fear? Sometimes the stories we tell ourselves become the only truth we can see. If this story is pulling you in, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens when these two collide. The warehouse sat on the south side, in a neighborhood where the streetlights had been broken for months, and nobody from the city bothered to fix them. Where questions didn't get asked, and sirens didn't come. Perfect. Imani's team met her there at 2 a.m. when the world was at its quietest and darkest. 3 people, the only ones she trusted with her life. Marcus, her old partner from the enforcement days, now running security for a community center, trying to go straight but still remembering every lesson they'd learned together. Yara, a hacker who could find anyone's digital footprint in under an hour, who'd once tracked down a man who'd stolen from the wrong people using nothing but his Netflix viewing history. Dev, a former medic with steady hands and a talent for asking the right questions in the wrong places, for making people talk without ever raising his voice. They sat on overturned crates in the warehouse's shadows, surrounded by stacks of pallets and the smell of old concrete and motor oil. Imani laid out everything she knew, the parking lot incident, the way the stranger had grabbed Noah, the hospital, the bodyguards hunting for answers with violence in their eyes. Hyun-ki Seo, Yara said, her fingers already flying across her laptop keyboard, the blue light casting shadows on her face. Seo of Seo Tech Solutions, Korean national, 31 years old, net worth estimated at 40 million. Clean record. Like suspiciously clean. Too clean, Marcus said, leaning forward. He'd always had good instincts. Yara nodded, scrolling through screens of data. Exactly. No social media presence, no scandals, no messy board meetings, no disgruntled employees going public. For a tech CEO under 40 in this city, that's not just unusual, that's impossible. What about family? Imani asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Didn't want to think about the little girl with the unicorn backpack. Parents deceased when he was 16. House fire officially ruled accidental. One cousin, Lily So, age 8. Legal guardian listed as Hyun-ki. She's been in his care since she was 3. Imani's chest tightened despite herself. The girl from the hospital. The one who might not wake up. No. She couldn't think like that, couldn't let sympathy cloud her judgment. Dev leaned forward, his medic's bag at his feet out of habit. I asked around in the community. Seo's company does legitimate work, AI development, cybersecurity contracts with major corporations. But 6 months ago, he fired half his board of directors in a single day and installed people with very interesting resumes. Meaning they all have documented ties to the Seongho clan, some direct, some buried, but they're all connected. The name hung in the air like smoke. Imani knew it. Everyone in this life knew it. The Seongho clan ran operations up and down the West Coast. Smuggling, extortion, tech theft, things that never made the news because people who talked about them tended to disappear. They didn't make noise. They didn't leave witnesses. They just made problems vanish like they'd never existed. So Seo's what? Marcus asked, his voice hard. A frontman? A puppet CEO? Or he's one of them, Imani said quietly, hiding behind a legitimate corporation, using it to move money or information or worse. Yara pulled up a photo. Hyun-ki at a charity gala, shaking hands with a silver-haired man in a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. They were both smiling, but the smiles didn't reach their eyes. That's Kwon Sung-ho, Dev said, the clan's founder, officially retired 5 years ago, supposedly living quietly. But his nephew Min runs daily operations now. And Min's reputation makes Kwon look gentle. Imani stared at the photo, at Hyun-ki's polite smile, at the way his hand gripped Kwon's like they were family, like they shared secrets. He's Mafia, using his company as cover, and he tried to kill my son. I want to know everything, she said, her voice carrying the weight of an order. Where he lives, where he goes, who he talks to. I want his schedule down to the minute. I want to know what he eats for breakfast and where he buys his coffee. Why? Yara asked, though Imani suspected she already knew. Because someone tried to murder my son tonight, and I don't wait around for the second attempt. Marcus stood slowly, his face troubled. Imani, if you're going after the Seongho clan, if that's really what this is, I'm going after the man who endangered my child. Her voice didn't rise, didn't waver. That's all. But her team knew better. They'd seen her in enforcement mode before, methodical, relentless, terrifying in her precision. This wasn't reconnaissance. This was a hunt. And Hyun-ki Seo was the prey. Across the city, in a hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and fear, Hyun-ki sat beside Lily's bed. She slept, monitors beeping their steady rhythm, her small hand wrapped in bandages that seemed too white against her skin. The doctors said she'd be fine. Concussion, bruised ribs, nothing permanent. She'd wake up tomorrow, probably ask for strawberry ice cream, probably tell him about the dream she'd had. Probably. But Hyun-ki couldn't stop seeing the moment of impact. The SUV clipping her bicycle as she rode home from her friend's house. Her small body hitting the pavement with a sound that would haunt him forever. The driver hadn't stopped, hadn't even slowed down, just kept going like her life meant nothing. His bodyguard had pulled the traffic cam footage within an hour. The SUV's license plate was registered to a shell company 3 layers deep, but they'd traced it eventually. Seongho Enterprises. A message from my uncle's people, from the family I thought I'd left behind. Hyun-ki had walked away from the clan 5 years ago, burned every bridge, severed every tie, built his company from absolutely nothing. Late nights that turned into early mornings, brutal contracts, every single dollar earned legitimately and cleanly. He'd thought distance would be enough. Thought success would prove he didn't need them, didn't want their dirty money or their blood-stained legacy. But the Seongho clan doesn't let people leave. They just wait, patient as predators, until they're ready to drag you back. And now they wanted him back. Wanted him to abandon everything he'd built and return to the only family he'd ever known. The family that had killed his parents and called it an accident. The door opened quietly. Jin, his head of security, entered with the careful movements of someone approaching a wounded animal. "We found the driver," Jin said, "and he says Min Seongho gave the order personally, said they wanted to remind you what happens when you forget where you came from, when you forget who made you." Hyun-Ki's hands tightened on the bed rail until his knuckles went white. Did he say why they targeted Lily specifically? Because you love her, because caring about someone makes you vulnerable, because love is the best leverage there is. The words settled into his chest like stones. Hyun-Ki looked at Lily's sleeping face, at the bandage over her left eye, at the way her small chest rose and fell with breaths that seemed too fragile. He pulled out his phone, opened the Notes app with fingers that wanted to shake, and typed, "If the price of family sin is losing Lily, I have nothing left to lose. They want me back? They'll get war instead." He stared at the words for a long moment, memorizing them. Then he stood, kissed Lily's forehead with infinite gentleness, and walked out of the hospital into the cold night. Jin followed half a step behind. "Sir, what are your orders?" "Find out who else they're targeting," Hyun-Ki said, his voice harder than Jin had ever heard it. "The woman and child from tonight. I want them protected. Quietly, discreetly. They don't need to know we're watching. And if Min escalates, if he makes another move, then we remind him that I left the clan by choice. I didn't leave behind the skills they taught me, or the knowledge of every single thing they've done." Jin nodded once, understanding perfectly. Neither of them knew that Imani Carter was already 3 steps ahead, tracking Hyun-Ki's movements through his digital footprint, building her case like a prosecutor preparing for trial. And neither of them knew the Seongho clan had been watching them both all along, waiting for exactly this moment, waiting for them to destroy each other. The Korean BBQ restaurant sat in a strip mall off Highway 7, wedged between a nail salon and a dry cleaner that had been closed for months. Imani had followed Hyun-Ki there, staying 2 cars back, lights off when he parked, every technique she'd learned years ago coming back. Like muscle memory, he went in through the back entrance. No bodyguards tonight, just him and a leather briefcase that looked expensive even from a distance. She waited 5 minutes, counted her breaths, checked her blade. Then she walked in through the front. The hostess barely looked up from her phone. "How many?" "I'm meeting someone." Imani moved past her before she could ask questions, scanning the hallway of private rooms. 3rd door on the left. Frosted glass. She could see his silhouette alone. Papers spread in front of him. She didn't knock, didn't announce herself, just slid the door open and stepped inside. The room smelled like sesame oil and charcoal. A pot of tea steamed on the low table. The grill in the center wasn't lit. Hyun-Ki sat cross-legged, papers spread in neat stacks around him, a pen in his hand. He looked up as she entered. For 1 second, neither of them moved. Recognition flashed in his eyes, then something else. Not fear, resignation maybe. Then Imani crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her dagger with practiced ease, and pressed the blade against his throat hard enough to make her point, but not hard enough to draw blood. Not yet. Don't move. Don't call for help. Don't even breathe wrong. Hyunki's hands stayed on the table, palms down. You're the woman from the parking lot. And you're the man who tried to kidnap my son. I pulled him away from an oncoming vehicle that would have killed him. From a threat you created. She leaned in, close enough to smell his cologne, cedar and something else, rain maybe, clean. The SUV that almost hit him, same one that ran down your cousin. You think that's just coincidence? No, he said quietly, his voice steady despite the blade at his throat. I don't think it's coincidence at all. His calmness unnerved her. Most men, with a blade pressed to their carotid artery, either begged or fought, panicked or bargained. Hyunki just watched her with dark, steady eyes. Why aren't you afraid? She asked. Because if you wanted me dead, I'd already be bleeding out on this floor. You wouldn't have waited, wouldn't have talked. Fair point. Imani adjusted her grip, applying just slightly more pressure. Give me one reason I shouldn't end this right now. Because you're not completely certain I'm guilty. Of what? That I'm the one who endangered your son. That I'm the threat you think I am. Imani's jaw tightened. Your Seongho clan. I've seen the photos, the connections. I know exactly what that means. I was Seongho, Hyunki said, and something painful crossed his face. Past tense, 5 years passed. I walked away. Then why were you at the hospital tonight, giving orders to hunt someone down? Why do you have bodyguards tracking drivers and making threats? Because they tried to kill Lily, an 8-year-old child, and I wanted to know who gave the order so I could stop them from trying again. Orders you plan to answer with violence. No. He shifted slightly, testing. She pressed the blade harder. A thin line of red appeared. He froze. I wanted to know who sent them. The driver confessed under pressure. It was my uncle's nephew, Min Seongho. They're trying to force me back into the organization by hurting the people I care about. Convenient story. Doesn't explain the parking lot. Doesn't explain why you grabbed my son. Doesn't it? Hyunki's eyes met hers directly, unwavering. The SUV that almost hit Noah. It followed him from his school. I tracked it for 6 blocks before it reached the diner. I was trying to prevent what happened to Lily from happening to your son. Her stomach dropped. You're lying. I have traffic cam footage on my phone. See for yourself. She didn't move, didn't trust this. He slowly, very slowly, reached into his pocket with 2 fingers, pulled out his phone, unlocked it with his thumb, and slid it across the table toward her. The video played, Noah leaving school, his backpack bouncing with each step, completely unaware. The black SUV pulling out 2 cars behind him, following him through 4 turns, parking across from the diner 15 minutes before Imani's shift ended. Waiting, hunting. Then the footage switched angles, the parking lot, grainy but clear enough. The SUV timing its approach for the exact moment Imani and Noah stepped outside into the rain. And Hyunki's sedan, arriving from the opposite direction at high speed, positioning itself to intercept. The grab wasn't a kidnapping, it was a save. Oh God, Oh no. Imani's hand trembled against the blade. They wanted both of us to think the other was the threat, Hyun-ki said quietly, his voice carrying no triumph, only weariness. Classic manipulation, divide and conquer. You hunt me, I defend myself, we destroy each other, and the Seongho clan gets exactly what they want, without lifting a finger. Which is? Me back in the organization, you eliminated as a complication before you can ask too many questions about their operations. Why would they care about me? I'm nobody. Because you're good at what you do. I had my people look into you after tonight. Imani Carter, former enforcement specialist, walked away from the life 3 years ago. You know how this world works. You know where to look. You know how to ask questions that get answers. He paused, watching her face. Min doesn't like people who know how to ask the right questions. Imani lowered the blade slowly, her mind racing through everything, rearranging the pieces. We've been manipulated, played against each other like chess pieces. She stepped back, fury rising in her chest, not at Hyun-ki, but at herself. At how easily she'd believed the setup. At how close she'd come to killing an innocent man. So what now? She asked, her voice rough. Hyun-ki stood carefully, straightening his collar where the blade had pressed, touching the small cut on his throat where a single drop of blood ran down. Now we stop fighting each other and start fighting them together. I work alone, always have. Not this time. His voice was firm, carrying authority she hadn't expected. They targeted your son to manipulate you. They targeted Lily to control me. Separately, we're vulnerable. Together, we're significantly stronger. She wanted to argue. Wanted to walk out and handle this the way she always had. Alone, self-sufficient, trusting no one. But the footage didn't lie, and the Seongho clan had just made both of them targets. Both of their children targets. One wrong move, she said, meeting his eyes. One hint that you're playing me, using me. You'll make me regret it. I understand completely. For the first time since entering the room, she almost believed him, almost trusted him, almost. Imani didn't trust him, not fully, not yet, but she agreed to meet the next day, neutral ground, a coffee shop near the university where students studied for midterms and nobody looked twice at tense conversations over cold lattes. Hyun-ki brought his laptop. Imani brought her questions and a knife hidden in her jacket. Show me everything, she said, wrapping her hands around a coffee cup she had no intention of drinking. He did. The Seongho clan structure, Kwon Seongho at the top, officially retired but still pulling strings. His nephew Min running daily operations with ruthless efficiency, smuggling routes that stretched from Seoul to San Francisco. Front companies layered so deep, you'd need forensic accountants to unravel them. A network built on fear and loyalty and blood. And in the center of it all, Hyun-ki's old life, mapped out in painful detail. I grew up in this, he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear over the coffee shop's ambient noise. My parents were low-level operatives for Kwon. Runners mostly, small jobs. They died in a warehouse fire when I was 16. Officially ruled an accident, gas leak, tragic but unavoidable. But I learned later, years later, it was internal cleanup. They wanted out. They asked too many questions, and Kwon doesn't let people leave. But he took you in, Imani said, already seeing the pattern. He did. gave me food, shelter, education, trained me in everything: business, strategy, how to read people, how to make them do what you want without them realizing they've been manipulated. Hyun-Ki's hands tightened around his own coffee cup. I thought he was saving me, thought he cared. But I learned what family meant to him. Loyalty measured only by obedience, affection used as control, love turned into chains. He closed the laptop with a quiet snap. I got out 5 years ago, used every connection I'd made, every skill he'd taught me, and built my company from nothing. Thought I could erase the past with enough legitimate success. Thought distance and money would be enough. You can't erase that kind of past, Imani said. She knew that truth intimately. It follows you. No. His expression darkened with something like grief. It doesn't follow. It waits. And now Min wants me back. He thinks if he applies enough pressure, hurts Lily, threatens my business, endangers people near me, I'll surrender and return. Will you? Never. The word was absolute, final. Imani studied him. His hands were steady, no rings, no visible scars except for one thin line on his left wrist that looked old. But his eyes carried the weight of someone who'd seen violence up close and chosen to walk away from it. He's telling the truth. Or he's the best liar I've ever met. Her phone buzzed, a video message, unknown number. She opened it, and her blood turned to ice. The screen showed Noah's school playground. Recess, her son on the swings, laughing with friends, completely unaware he was being watched. The camera zoomed in slowly, held on his face, on his joy. Then the message appeared in block letters. We know where he plays. We know his schedule. We know everything. Do you? Imani's vision went red at the edges. They're baiting you, Hyun-Ki said, reading over her shoulder. I know that. Her voice was ice and fury combined. Then don't take the bait. That's my son on that screen. And they're counting on you to panic, to make emotional decisions, to rush in without thinking. He met her eyes. That's when mistakes happen. That's when people die. Imani wanted to scream, wanted to drive to the school right now, pull Noah out, run somewhere they could never be found. But Hyun-Ki was right, and she hated that he was right. Panic was the trap. She forced herself to breathe, to think strategically instead of emotionally. What do they actually want? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. You, emotional and reckless and making mistakes. Me, desperate to prevent casualties, willing to negotiate. He leaned back, his analyst's mind clearly working through possibilities. Min's playing a longer game than simple intimidation. He wants to prove I can't survive outside the clan, that I need their protection, that everything I've built will crumble without them. And me? You're the demonstration piece, the woman who got too close to the truth and paid the ultimate price. They'll use you to remind me and everyone watching what happens when you defy the Seongho clan. Imani's jaw tightened until it ached. I'm nobody's object lesson. I know. Something shifted in his expression. Genuine respect, maybe even admiration. That's exactly why we need a comprehensive strategy. I'm listening. Hyun-Ki opened a new file on his laptop. Blueprints of a port facility, shipping manifests with items marked in red. Guard rotations and security gaps highlighted in yellow. Min's running a black market tech operation out of the port. Stolen components, illegal exports, violations of about 15 different international laws. If we disrupt his supply chain, we hurt his standing with the clan elders, make him look incompetent, force him to scramble. You want to start a war? I want to make him desperate. Hyunki's voice went cold in a way that reminded her he'd been trained by the same people who'd trained her. Desperate people make mistakes, they overreact, they expose themselves. And when he makes that mistake, we'll be ready to end this. Amani looked at the blueprints, at the guard rotations, at the security gaps that would let 2 skilled people do significant damage. It was a solid plan, extremely risky, but solid. My son's safety comes first, she said, before everything else. Absolutely agreed. I'll assign 2 of my people to watch him around the clock. Former military, combat experience, completely vetted. They won't let him out of sight. I don't know your people. I don't trust them. Then meet them yourself. Vet them personally. Interview them. Run background checks, whatever you need to feel confident. He closed the laptop. But decide quickly. Min won't wait. He'll escalate. Amani stood, her mind already running through scenarios, calculating risks. She'd spent 5 years avoiding this life, trying desperately to keep Noah away from the violence that had shaped her entire childhood. Now she had no choice. The violence had found them anyway. Okay, she said finally, we work together on this, equal partners, but if you betray me, if this is some elaborate setup, you'll make me regret it in ways I can't imagine, Hyunki finished, standing to face her. I heard you clearly the first time, and the second. I'm not your enemy, Imani. I never was. For the first time since this nightmare began, she almost smiled. Almost. The plan was supposed to be simple. Meet at Hyunki's office building after midnight. Use his security clearance to access Min's shipping data remotely. Download the manifests. Leave before anyone noticed. Simple. But Imani should have known better. She picked up Noah from school herself that afternoon. Hyunki's security detail shadowing from 2 cars back. She checked him thoroughly, found nothing. At home, she made him dinner, mac and cheese, his favorite. Let him watch cartoons while she packed a go-bag. Cash, fake IDs, first aid supplies, just in case. At 11 p.m., her phone buzzed. Hyunki, Yara found an opening in Min's system. We need to move tonight. Imani, can't. Noah's asleep. Hyunki, bring him. My office has a secure room. He'll be safer there than alone at home. She hated it. Hated the idea of bringing her son anywhere near this. But Hyunki was right. She woke Noah gently, bundled him in his jacket. Where are we going, Mama? Just a quick errand, baby. You can sleep in the car. He nodded, half asleep already. They drove to Hyunki's office building, a glass tower downtown, mostly empty this late. Hyunki met them in the lobby, Lily beside him, clutching a stuffed dolphin. She woke up when I left, he said apologetically. Wouldn't stay with the nurse. Imani looked at the little girl, bandage still on her temple, eyes wide and uncertain. It's okay, Imani said. Noah, this is Lily. Noah waved shyly. Hi. Lily smiled. I like your dinosaur shirt. And just like that, the tension broke. Hyunki led them to the basement garage. There's a secure room on the 2nd sublevel, reinforced walls, independent air system. They'll be safe there while we work. You're certain? I'm certain. They took the elevator down. The garage was empty. Concrete pillars, harsh fluorescent lights, the smell of oil and exhaust. Imani's instincts prickled. Too quiet. Hyunki! That's when she saw it. A small black device magnetically attached to her car's rear bumper. LED blinking red. Not a tracker, a trigger. Run! Imani grabbed Noah, sprinting toward the exit stairs. Hyunki scooped up Lily, right behind her. The garage door's roller shutters started closing. Automatic lockdown triggered remotely. They weren't going to make it. Imani shoved Noah toward Hyunki. Get them out! Not without you! The explosion ripped through the air, not the car. The support column beside it, strategically placed to cause maximum damage without killing. This was a message, not an execution. Concrete and metal erupted. The shockwave slammed into Imani, throwing her forward. She hit the ground hard, ears ringing. Through the smoke, she saw Hyunki. He'd pushed both kids behind a concrete barrier, his body covering theirs. A piece of rebar, jagged and sharp, whistled through the air. Straight toward Noah's head. Hyunki moved without thinking. He twisted, putting himself between the metal and the boy, and the rebar punched through his left shoulder with a sickening crunch. He gasped, went to his knees, but didn't move away from the children. Blood spread across his white shirt, dark and fast. Hyunki! Imani scrambled to him, hands shaking. I'm fine, he breathed. Get them out, now. She wanted to argue, wanted to check the wound, but the ceiling groaned above them. Structural damage, the building's weight shifting. Can you walk? Yes. Liar. But she helped him up anyway, one arm around his waist, the other gripping Noah's hand. Lily clung to Hyunki's uninjured side, tears streaming down her face. They made it to the stairs, up one level, two. Sirens wailed in the distance. In the street, Imani finally let herself look at Hyunki's shoulder. The rebar had gone clean through, missing the bone but shredding muscle. He was pale, swaying. Why? She asked, voice breaking. Why would you do that? Hyunki met her eyes even as his knees buckled. Because someone has to break this cycle. His breath came hard, pained. And I choose to trust you, to protect what matters to you. Then he collapsed. Imani caught him, lowered him to the pavement. Noah was crying, Lily was crying, and Imani, hands covered in Hyunki's blood, realized with terrible clarity, he's not the enemy, he never was. The real enemy had just tried to kill them all. And she'd wasted precious time hunting the wrong man. The ambulance took Hyunki to Mercy General. Same ER where this had started. Imani stayed with him until the doctors stabilized him, until the monitors beeped steady and his eyes fluttered open. The kids, he whispered, safe. Your security has them in a private room upstairs. He nodded, wincing. You're reckless, Imani said. Probably. That rebar could have killed you. It would have killed Noah. She wanted to argue, but the words stuck. Because he was right, and because she'd seen the choice he made. Instant, selfless, no hesitation, no calculation, just protection. That wasn't criminal behavior. That was something entirely different. Hyunki's phone buzzed on the bedside table. He reached for it with his good hand, fumbled, nearly dropped it. Imani took it, read the screen, a message from an unknown number. Nice try, but you'll have to do better than a parking garage. We have the boy now. Rooftop at 300 Spring Street. Come alone, both of you, 1 hour, or he dies. Below the text, a photo of Noah. Gagged, hands zip-tied behind his back, Imani's world tilted. No, her voice was barely sound. No, no, no. Hyun-ki sat up, ignoring the doctor's protests, and took the phone. His jaw tightened. It's Min. He's forcing the confrontation. How did he get past your security? He planned this before the garage. Grabbed Noah during the evacuation chaos. Hyun-ki swung his legs off the bed, ripped the IV from his arm. We don't have time for questions. We go now. You can't even stand. Watch me. 300 Spring Street was an abandoned office building slated for demolition. 10 stories of broken windows and graffiti. Imani and Hyun-ki arrived at 2 a.m. No backup, no weapons. Min's message had been explicit. The stairwell smelled like mold and rust. Every step sent pain through Hyun-ki's shoulder, but he didn't slow down. On the 10th floor, the door to the roof stood open. Rain misted down, turning the rooftop slick. Min Seong-ho waited in the center, flanked by 4 men in tactical gear. Noah knelt beside him, shaking, tears streaming down his face. "Mama!" he screamed through the gag. Imani started forward. Hyun-ki grabbed her arm. "Wait!" Min smiled. "Hyun-ki, cousin, you look worse than I expected." "Let the boy go, Min." "Oh, I will, after you come home where you belong." "I'm never coming back." "No?" Min pulled out a knife, laid it against Noah's shoulder, not cutting, just pressing. "Not even for him?" Imani's heart stopped. "Don't," Hyun-ki said quietly. "He's a child. This doesn't involve him." "So was Lily. Didn't stop you from abandoning us." Min's smile vanished. "You think you can just walk away, build your clean little tech empire, and forget where you came from?" "I remember exactly where I came from. That's why I left." "Ungrateful! You killed my parents," Hyun-ki said, voice hard. "The warehouse fire wasn't an accident. It was Kwon tying up loose ends because they wanted out. And you helped him cover it up." Min's jaw tightened. "They were liabilities. They were people. Same thing when you're weak. Then I want no part of a world that thinks like that." Imani watched the exchange, her mind racing. 4 guards, Min armed, Noah in the middle of it all. She caught Hyun-ki's eye, mouthed, "Distract him." He nodded slightly. "Min," Hyun-ki said, stepping forward despite the pain. "You want me back? Fine. Release the boy and his mother. I'll return to the clan. You win." "No," Imani started. "It's the only way to end this." It was a bluff, a terrible one. But Min hesitated, considering. That's when Imani moved. She sprinted left, drawing attention from 2 guards. They shouted, reached for their weapons. Hyun-ki lunged right, ignoring the scream of pain from his shoulder, and slammed into the 3rd guard. The rooftop erupted into chaos. Imani disarmed the 1st guard with a move she'd learned a decade ago. Wrist lock, knee to the solar plexus, weapons stripped and thrown over the edge. The 2nd guard tackled her. They hit the ground, rainwater soaking through her clothes. Across the roof, Hyun-ki fought one-handed, using momentum and leverage to compensate for his injury. Min backed toward Noah, knife raised. A door burst open. Yara, Marcus, and Dev stormed through. Armed with tasers and steel pipes. "Thought you could use backup," Marcus said, grinning fiercely. The guards went down fast. Professional, but outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Min grabbed Noah, hauled him toward the roof's edge. "Stay back or I throw him off." Imani froze. "Min, don't do this." "Give me one reason." "Because you already lost," Hyun-ki said, limping forward. He held up his phone, screen glowing. I've been recording this whole conversation. Kwan's going to hear exactly what you said about my parents, about the fire, about your ambitions to take over from him. Min's face went white. You're bluffing. Am I? Hyunki's voice was ice. The clan elders value loyalty and honor above everything. How loyal does it look? Confessing to murdering a respected member's family? How honorable does it look? Threatening children to manipulate your own cousin. For a long moment, no one moved. The rain fell harder. Then Min shoved Noah forward, hard, and ran for the opposite stairwell. Imani caught her son, went to her knees, held him tight enough to feel his heartbeat against hers. I've got you, baby. I've got you. You're safe now. Marcus and Dev pursued Min, but Imani didn't care about that. She had Noah, alive, safe. Hyunki sank to his knees, blood seeping through his makeshift bandage, his face gray with pain. Imani looked at him, this man who'd risked everything, who'd taken a piece of metal meant for her son, who'd stood against his own blood family for people he barely knew. Thank you, she whispered. He smiled weakly. We make a good team. Yeah, she said, we do. 2 weeks later, the rain returned. Imani stood on the rooftop of Hyunki's building. Not the garage level, the actual roof, 30 floors up. With the city lights spread below like scattered stars, Hyunki leaned against the railing beside her, his arm in a sling, healing slowly but steadily. Min Seongo had vanished. The recording Hyunki sent to Kwan had triggered an internal investigation. Word on the street said Min was in hiding overseas, disowned by the clan. The Seongo clan had gone quiet, for now. Do you think it's over? Imani asked. No, Hyunki said honestly, but I think we bought ourselves time. And safety. She nodded. That was realistic. In this world, peace was always conditional. I'm sorry, she said, for hunting you, for not seeing the truth. You were protecting your son. I understand that completely. Still, her voice caught. If that rebar had been 2 inches to the right, it wasn't. She looked at him, at the scar forming on his shoulder, visible through the open collar of his shirt, at the way he held himself, careful but not defeated. Why did you really do it? She asked. Shield Noah like that? Hyunki was quiet for a moment. I grew up thinking love was currency, something people traded for control and loyalty. My uncle loved me, and he used that love to keep me trapped in that life. He turned to face her fully. But then I saw you with Noah, the way you'd fight the whole world to keep him safe. No manipulation, no conditions, just pure, fierce love. And I thought, that's what deserves protection. That kind of love, that kind of family. Imani's chest ached. We're not your responsibility. Not yet, he said softly. But maybe we could be. Maybe we could build something real together. The rooftop door opened. Noah and Lily ran out, giggling, chasing each other in circles. Lily's bandage was gone. Her hair had been cut short. Her choice, she'd told Hyunki, because she wanted to look brave. Noah spotted his mother and ran over, crashing into her legs. Mama, Lily taught me how to say hello in Korean. Did she? 안녕하세요. He beamed, mangling the pronunciation, but so proud. That means hello. Lily corrected him gently, and they practiced together, their voices high and pure in the rain-washed air. Imani felt Hyunki's hand brush hers. Tentative, asking permission. She took it, His fingers were warm despite the cold. "I thought you were going to kill me that night," he said, "in the restaurant." "I considered it." "What changed your mind?" "You didn't panic." She squeezed his hand. "Guilty people panic." "And now?" "Now?" She looked at their children, playing together like they'd known each other forever. "Now I think we're fighting for the same thing." Hyun-ki bowed slightly, a gesture of deep respect. "I won't let anyone harm your family again." "Our family," Imani corrected gently. He smiled, a real one, not polite or controlled, just genuinely happy. Noah ran back over. "Can we get ice cream?" "It's almost midnight," Imani said. "There's a place 2 blocks away that's open late," Hyun-ki offered. "You're encouraging this." "I'm wounded. I need morale support." She laughed, surprised at the sound, at how natural it felt. "Okay, ice cream, but then bed." The kids cheered. As they walked toward the elevator, Lily slipped her hand into Noah's. He didn't pull away. Imani watched them, her heart full of something she couldn't quite name. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of it. Hyun-ki walked beside her, close enough that their shoulders brushed. "This is inspirational," he said quietly, "seeing them together, believing we can build something better than what we came from." "Better than what was done to us," she agreed. They'd both survived violent worlds, carried scars nobody could see. But here, now, with rain falling soft and their children laughing, it felt achievable. Not easy, never easy, but achievable. "Imani," Hyun-ki said as they reached the elevator. "Yeah?" "I know this is complicated. I know we have a long road ahead. But I want you to know," he hesitated, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. "I'm falling in love with you, and it terrifies me." She stopped walking, turned to face him. In the elevator's fluorescent light, his expression was completely open, no defenses. "I'm terrified too," she admitted. "But I think I'm falling too. This romance between us, it's not what I expected, but it's real." He exhaled, relief and wonder mixing on his face. "So what do we do?" he asked. "We take it one day at a time. We keep the kids safe. We build something honest." She smiled. "And we don't let fear make our decisions." "Deal." They rode the elevator down together, hands still linked, while Noah and Lily debated the merits of chocolate versus vanilla. Outside, the city stretched before them, broken and beautiful, dangerous and full of possibility. And for the first time in years, Imani felt something she'd almost forgotten. Home. Not a place, a person, no, 3 people. Her son, the little girl with the dolphin backpack, and the man beside her who'd chosen protection over violence, love over loyalty to a cruel legacy. It was genuinely motivational, really, the idea that people could change, that healing could bloom in the ruins of war, that 2 damaged people could build something whole together. The rain fell gentler now, washing the streets clean. And somewhere in the night, the Seongho clan watched and calculated their next move. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, they had ice cream, and laughter, and each other, and that was more than enough. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances, and love that rises from the ashes and the power of choosing protection over revenge, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in Imani's place? Would you have trusted Hyun-ki? How do you think they'll navigate building this new family together? Let me know your thoughts. And remember, healing is possible. Love is possible. Redemption is possible. Even when the world says otherwise, especially then. Thank you for listening to this story. Thank you for being here. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the people you love.